Okay, good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Go ahead and get started. Welcome to the June 17th, 2022 meeting of the VRE Operations Board. As you can see, I'm not Margaret Franklin. Chair Franklin couldn't make it this morning, so she asked me to step in and state the obvious. The air conditioning is not working in the building. I know we're working on it, but certainly don't expect it'll be working before we wrap up. So we're going to try to expedite this morning as much as possible. So let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Leslie, you want to call the roll?
Yeah, Mr. Alcorn? Ms. Bagley? Present. Ms. Bailey?
Present.
Mr. Banks? Ms. Bomke?
Here.
Ms. Garvey?
Here.
Ms. Gary?
Here.
Ms. Hayes? Mr. Kelly? Ms. Lawson?
Here.
Mr. McLaughlin? Mr. Smith?
Here.
Mr. Stark?
Present.
And Mr. Walkinshaw?
Here.
Mr. Vice Chair, we have quorum.
Okay, Rich, you want to give us a safety moment?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We'll just start with, hopefully, everybody's got a water in front of them. And as the chair indicated, little balmy in here. But nonetheless, we also have additional water. I think there's still some more in a ice chest over there. So just don't be afraid to keep yourself hydrated here. And then just real quickly, in the event that we need first responders in the space, if I could get Mr. Henry, if you could be the primary 911 caller. If I could get Mr. Swartz, if you could be the backup. Mr. Richards in the back staff will be primary AED CPR. And let's see, what else we got? John Cairns in the way back will be the backup there. So most of you have been in this space. I think everybody's been in this space, and we do know the primary evacuation routes out here. So that would be my safety. Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dalton. First item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Any amendments to the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Next item is the approval of the minutes from our May 20th, 2022 Operations Board meeting, which have been distributed. Any corrections or changes to the minutes?
Move for approval. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Mr. Chairman, abstain.
Supervisor Lawson abstains. And, right, Ms. Bailey
Be
abstains.
consistent. I've not got any
All
time.
right. Everyone's thinking back to whether they.
Well, I'm looking too, right up there.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, there's that.
Okay, so we have 3 abstentions. And the motion carries. Okay, welcome everyone, as I said, to the June 2022 VRE Operations Board meeting. Reminder that we're live streaming the meeting and there are mics throughout the room, so keep your side conversations to a minimum.
Correction, 217.
I said June 2022. Yeah.
Got it.
Hopefully we're still.
I'm like trying to figure.
Yeah. Yeah, June 2022 board meeting. You're right, the June 17th. It's June 17th. There will be a finance committee meeting after this that I think we plan to hold in the conference room down the hall that does have air conditioning. So finance committee members, that's good news. 2 updates. After a 2-year hiatus, VRE's Meet the Management events resumed this week at Union Station. Councilmember Bagley was able to join VRE staff at that event. The afternoon events at our 4 core destination stations give riders the opportunity to meet senior staff and get answers to questions pertaining to operations, capital projects, IT, and more. All operations board members are welcome and encouraged to attend, and the upcoming dates are on the screen. Please reach out to Rich if you'd like to attend or need additional information. A great opportunity to meet and thank and hear from our riders. Very exciting, the 30th anniversary of VRE. As VRE celebrates the launch of the Manassas Line service, which was in June 1992. We have two commemorative events coming up that hope you can attend. The first is next Wednesday, June 22nd, which is 30 years to the day of VRE's first trains. And at the Manassas station, I will have remarks from several people, including original VRE Operations Board members Sharon Bova and David Brickley, before they board train 332 for a commemorative ride. Local press has been invited, and I think we're also working out to have some transportation. So if board members want to attend that event and need to drive to the Manassas station and take the ride, hopefully to Burke Center.
Work Center.
That's my preference. We'll have transportation arranged for folks to get back to their car at Manassas. And I think that's 7 a.m.
The event starts at 7 a.m. And the train will depart. So that could put you back in Manassas with transportation and everything in that 8:40 to 8:50 time range, as long as everything's on time.
So an early morning, but not a huge time commitment. So we're seeing folks there. And also at our July board meeting, which is just a few days before the service began on the Fredericksburg line, we'll have a post-meeting reception here to celebrate that. And we have invitations in front of you. So schedule a little bit of additional time after our board meeting to join us for that reception. And you also have the VRE preview of the early release of the VRE cookies. Rich, who made these cookies?
So actually, Karen and I believe a friend of her, Karen, is our public affairs administrator. I will say they have done this a couple of times. These have always been a hit.
Yeah.
So,
Right. Well, yeah, thank Karen and everyone who helped with that.
absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, any questions on those items?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
it's July the 20, isn't it July 22nd? Not the 20th? Is Wednesday. Are we doing the board meeting on a Wednesday next month?
We're doing the meeting on,
On
let's see,
Friday?
we're doing the meeting on Friday, which is July 17th. 15th, I'm sorry, 15th.
Oh, we're not doing it on the 27th?
It says the 20th.
Yeah, this says the 20th.
Okay, so the correct date is the 15th.
15th.
All right.
The 20th was the first Fredericksburg line train.
So it should say 15. Got it. Okay.
It's July 15th.
All right. Good catch. July 15th, right after our board meeting.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, next item on the agenda is our CEO's report, Mr. Dalton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of things. Last month, I reported on the system safety plan approval from the FRA. This month, we're doing lunch and learns to educate and inform the staff on the updated plan. So just wanted to mention that. On-time performance for the month, I believe most of you or some of you at preceding commission meetings, I've already discussed this. Obviously, the month of May, we had some planned maintenance out there on the Manassas line, which affected our overall system performance, specifically the Manassas line at 41%. That work was scheduled to take 3 weeks. It took 3 weeks. We did plan to have essentially every train at least late, somewhere in that 5 to 15 minute range. So I don't want to imply that a 41% on-time performance is good. But relatively speaking, we were anticipating all those trains to be late during that period. So we were able to get in there. We collectively, Norfolk Southern, in and out, and was able to get the project completed. So, and here's just, in case anybody wants to dive down into some of the metrics, as indicated, maintenance away work on the Manassas line was the majority of the delays, and of course resulting in some congestion. Ridership finally peaked over 100K for the month, and we're continuing in that increasing pace there. So that was nice to see. And from an average daily ridership standpoint, of course, that continues to increase as well. So you've heard me report before that we were obtaining riders maybe one at a time, two at a time, maybe we're up to about three at a time now. So very positive news, and even coming into June, we continue to see those average daily ridership numbers increase. So not
Mr.
to,
Chair. Oh, no, you go first.
Could you remind us what it was in 2019?
so our average daily ridership, average right before the pandemic, that January, February, our average daily ridership was 18,270.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Just-
But relatively speaking, you can see
Oh, no, you're doing great. I just was.
from a year-over-year basis, we've doubled.
Mr. Chair. So a question for Rich. You know, as we see these numbers tick up, we're hearing in the news a tremendous amount of dialogue and some pushback from all the federal agencies that are starting back in September and requiring or requesting people to come back, and I think they're pushing back because, as we know, some people have moved out of the state and are in North Dakota, North Carolina, because they were allowed to telework. And now I hear there's a tremendous amount of pushback from people. Have you all looked at some of the major federal agencies and state agencies that were a part of VRE? And have you had conversations with them about what do you think your ridership's gonna look like and that kind of thing?
So just simply put, out of a little over 400 agencies, and some of those are agencies within agencies, we track 70 of those, about 70 of those agencies. So, and those pre-COVID made up the majority of our riders. And so, so those are the ones that we primarily focus on.
Okay,
And yes, I mean, they have return to work plans that's, a lot of them started in March, and they're very, very gradual. And with, as you mentioned, a big push post Labor Day. They continue to tell us that. I've heard the same thing, somewhat anecdotally, about pushback and stuff like that, but those plans are still basically being executed, if you will, and those are the plans out there. So
all right, thank
that's
you.
what we're going off of.
Other questions for Rich? Okay, next item on the agenda is the action items, and we have 4 action items. And in the interest of time, I want to maybe speed this up a little bit, but respect everyone's opportunity to ask questions or express concerns. The second 2 action items, C and D, are somewhat time sensitive operationally, so we need to act on today. Before we act on all the action items, but C and D we must act on today. A and B, if there were questions or concerns, we could defer until July. And we'll let Rich talk through all 4 of the action items quickly, and then I'm going to suggest that we move them as a block with the opportunity to pull any out if someone has specific concerns. So Rich, you want to talk us through the action items?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. 9A, this is a recommendation to the commissions to amend our existing AMTRAK access and storage agreement. 2 components to this within the, I'm sorry,
I skipped public comment. Did we have any?
We do not have any
Okay.
public comments.
Right.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Rich, I'm sorry.
So actually, we do have a couple on the agenda though. Right, we have a couple.
those were
From
from the minutes, those were from last.
last.
Thank you.
Last,
Sorry, missed that. Thank you.
Okay, let me start again. 9A. 9A, we're seeking authorization. There's two elements to this amendment. One element is AMTRAK has requested the ability to make stops at the new Crystal City station that we've all been collaborating on. And so formally, within our access or operating access agreement with AMTRAK, there's a joint use facility section in there. And so what we're recommending is we just add the new Crystal City station to the joint use facility section. And just so we can formalize and actually coordinate a little bit more formally with AMTRAK on any kind of provisions that they need at the new Crystal City station platform. Of course, they would pay for all that, but this just formalizes that. Number two is we want to add to our cross-honor agreement, or the cross-honor section of the agreement, additional AMTRAK trains. So for those of you familiar, there are a list of eligible trains that VRE passengers that possess a multi-ride ticket plus a step-up ticket that can actually utilize AMTRAK trains in our service area. And so we want to take this time to add additional trains to that list, because there are additional trains as a result of transforming rail in Virginia that will be coming online. And we want to add trains that actually service this area on Saturdays and Sundays and weekends. So that's the first step in a multi-step process. I will say that currently the cross-honor program has been suspended, when we anticipate reactivating that in the fall. So we're just kind of getting ready for that reactivation. So that's 9A. 9B. 9B is what we're seeking here is a recommendation to the commissions to enter into a master funding agreement with the rail authority. Simply put, we have a master agreement with the Department of Rail and Public Transportation, but since the rail authority has taken over some of the capital grants funding obligations moving forward, we need a separate agreement with them, with the rail authority. This actually has two agreements: master funding agreement plus an agreement for the track access fees. And so essentially the agreements are the same, but we need to have an additional agreement with the rail authority, because now some of the funds come through the rail authority. 9C. We're just seeking authorization to amend our existing contract for PTC hosted back office services. We're entering into the last year of a 5-year agreement with them, and we previously received authorization for the entire 5 years, contract authorization for the entire 5 years. And but that included mobilization at the very beginning of this process, and we did just due to some unknowns with technology and stuff, we did consume some of the contract value up front during the mobilization. So we're just coming back at the end here to get the additional contract authorization so we can finish up the last year with this contract. And of course, it's in the amount stated in the resolution plus a contingency. And then 9D, this is an authorization to amend an existing custodial seasonal services task order with Fresh Air. Somewhat similar when we awarded the contract a couple of years ago. We implemented an on-call task order, initially projected to cover the entire 5-year period. But predominantly this last year, and more specifically during this last winter season, we consumed some of that additional contract value just to address issues that we had, not just with the winter weather storms, but some other events throughout the year. So what we're just seeking here is to supplement that task order, and of course to supplement it and get to the total contract value of $326,000. That exceeds my delegation of authority limit. So we just need operations board approval to keep that going for the last year. That's my summaries, plural, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair.
Could I move for approval of these action items A through D as a block?
Second.
Okay, discussion? So discussion has the opportunity to ask any questions or raise any concerns about the 4 action items. Okay, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Oh, we need a second.
Oh,
she's several.
2 seconds.
Okay, thank you.
Any opposed? Any abstention? The motion carries. Thank you. So that takes us to our information items. And we have 1, 2, 3 information items. Rich, you want to talk us through the information items quickly?
So information item 10A, this information item simply summarizes some work by the bylaws committee over the last couple of months. And the recommendation coming out of the bylaws committee, there's an attachment there with with a charge letter. We would come back to you. The idea is to come back to you next month with a formal resolution, but just wanted to get this into the package and give the rest of the operations board an opportunity to see what the recommendations coming out of the bylaws committee. And I don't know, Chair. if
Yeah,
you
I
want-
can speak to it briefly. The bylaws committee pretty quickly recognized that we don't need to amend the bylaws to address some of the concerns that were raised in terms of representation on the executive committee. So what we ended up doing is drafting a resolution for the operations board consideration that would help guide the nominations committee in its work to put together the slates for the executive committee. And essentially the existing bylaws give us the flexibility to add additional members to the executive committee. And we're going to recommend that the operations board adopt a resolution directing the nominations committee to consider the need to balance different interests, including the 2 commissions, ridership and jurisdictions with growing ridership, and the broader interest of the VRE riders in the composition of the executive committee. So I think today, if everyone can, between now and the July meeting, review that. If you have questions or concerns, certainly any of us on the bylaws committee, happy to talk to you now in July. But our hope is that the operations board could adopt this resolution or something close to it in the July meeting.
Yeah, so just on behalf of Stafford County, with Supervisor Gary, and I see that Lori Hayes from Spotsylvania wasn't able to be here today, as well as Matt Kelly from the city. I just want to say I appreciate everybody's work on this. And I think in the final analysis, it should be a fix to just even things out from a representation standpoint. So look forward to the resolution next month.
Thank you. Anything else on that? Okay, information item B.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So 10B, so this is a information item. Also, we're not seeking action today, but wanted to have some discussion, and that can start now and this can continue. We would be based on some level of concurrence from the operations board, we could bring back a formal authorization. And this would just simply be an authorization to ensure that we're in compliance with our tariff and stuff. But simply put, let me just start off with, this is a promotional, this concept came, frankly, to basically promote VRE service. Okay, this is not, we're not recommending at this point anyway, anything permanent. So, but it is broke out. There's a couple of pieces to this. One is to come out after the summer holiday, post Labor Day, or in the month of September with the free fares across the board for all AMTRAK train, or excuse me, AMTRAK, VRE trains, AMTRAK stuff. They would like it too. September traditionally is a high ridership month for us. It looks like it's shaping up to be a high ridership month for us. Again, similar to Supervisor Baumke's comment. And so the concept there would be free fares for all for the month of September. It'd be promotional. It also does a couple other things. It allows us to you know, thank our passengers for sticking with us, and gives us an opportunity for folks that are making choices out there to come experience VRE and hopefully make what we feel is the high value choice and start using VRE as their commuting option. The second piece of this is it's also in that same time frame. Metro have a shutdown of the blue and yellow line south of the Reagan Airport, which is right in our service area there, north of Franconia, Springfield, and Backlick. So this would also likely entice folks that are impacted by that shutdown to come over to VR and give us a try. And I won't be shy in saying, and I hope they stay. So, but also the other piece to this also is that blue and yellow line shutdown extends into October. So we're also socializing is the concept to continue free fares, but just simply from a zone perspective. If you want to look at the slide, zone 3 in other words, the area that's most affected by the blue and yellow line shutdown from zone 3 in, from both Franconia, Springfield, and Backlick. Keep that going for another few weeks, 0 fares. And while I'm on that piece, so there is a program out there, and one of the reasons why we wanted to socialize this with you is on that specific piece there's a program out there that DRPT is championing, where we could apply and actually get about 80% of our lost fare revenue back because of the blue and yellow line shutdown. The previous September fare free, and as we've put in the information item, we're looking at a worst case. There could be the foregoing fare revenue in the neighborhood of 1.2 million, $2.1 million, somewhere in there, depending on the ridership is. And of course, we would backstop that with our existing CARES money. So I'll stop there. Lots going on there. I didn't know if folks had a chance to look at this, but glad to have some discussion on it.
Yeah, thank you, Rich. And I wanted to have some time for folks to hear about this and ask questions about it today, because obviously it's important. And there's been a little bit of media interest in it the last couple of days. And I think one thing that's important, there are a lot of transit agencies looking at moving to a free or reduced fare model long-term or permanently. And that's not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about is giving people an option during the upcoming shutdown and taking advantage of this opportunity to attract new riders and promote VRE, because we know when people try VRE, they like it. It's a pleasant experience. It's an enjoyable experience. And, I think there's a possibility that if this is successful and we do attract a significant number of new riders, that it's something we could look at potentially doing annually. Maybe it's just a couple of weeks to attract new riders each year. So I think that's the idea behind it. As Rich said, we'll need to get the operations board approval in July, but wanted to give everyone an opportunity to think about it and ask questions about it today. So, Libby.
Oh, okay, thank you. Walter had his hand, sorry, Walter.
No,
Yep, I'm just saying, this is a great experiment. I mean, it's like, are we gonna try to capture information? It's really, one of the hard things about transit is you interview the people who are taking the transit, which you really want to talk to people who aren't there, but you can't talk to them because they're not there. And this will help, maybe bring in hopefully a lot of people, and we could get some really interesting information. And I don't know if I assume there's plans afoot to do that, but the more we can capture their information and figure out what they want, where they're going, and what fare might work for them, anyway, it seems like a tremendous opportunity. I'm glad we're going.
Agreed. I'll just say one of the reasons we're looking for a nod in one direction or now, because there is additional work that we need to do on this. But if the ops board doesn't want to do this, then I don't want to spend any more resorces on it. But that was exactly, I think it's a pop-up surveys or something like that that could help us with some
I think
information.
it's great, and I'd be even more in favor the more we can get information.
Yes.
Walter.
Yeah, I think this is definitely worth doing, but let's make sure that we get a splash out of it. Because, I mean, this is a promotional thing, you know, let's use it to draw attention to the service. And I would also suggest, you know, if we could not only emphasize the free nature during this promotional period, but frankly, the quality of the product and the service that people get to try to lure, you know, more riders and to bring people onto the trains. The other thing that I would just note, WMATA is doing the full shutdown, you know, south of the airport for that 6-week period. But let's not forget that the Yellow Line tunnel is going to be shut down all the way until next May. So we're going to have some commuters, you know, from King Street, Crystal City, but we probably have some commuters that are coming from a little farther south that are maybe getting on at Franconia Springfield on the Blue Line, who are then transferring and to get the Yellow Line to come in. Let's get those commuters. So that actually is going to be, so this is, in my mind, this is another way to at least raise attention for those folks so they can actually really get used to VRE through next May, because it is, I think for a good number of folks, this is going to be a much better opportunity, much better service. So thank you.
Supervisor Bailey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree with what's been said already. And one of my staff members and I were talking about this. We're working on our comp plan in terms of the mobility chapter. This was one of the recommendations that my staff made in terms of this, you know, for future. So I see this not just as an existing tool, but future in terms of how we grow and where we put VRE, i.e. Potomac, you know, as an attraction for folk to really utilize the service. And we just had this conversation yesterday. So I certainly support it. I think it's a great idea. But I agree with Walter, you know, we've got to do big promotion on it to reap the benefits and get the data that we need. You know, it can't be subtle.
Supervisor Balke.
So obviously, this is gonna have hopefully a great short-term impact. And we hope will dovetail into some long-term riders. And it will be interesting at our July meeting, talking with Mark, I believe the results of the recent survey will be out. Maybe we might have that information. So that would be good information. But I want to bring up two things. I know at Quantico, I had mentioned, and Mark and I talked about this, and I talked with our staff, at the Quantico station, the base has shut down the shuttle there. So I have heard that a lot of people are not riding because the shuttle is not then taking them onto the base. So I'd like some follow-up on that from staff, if I could get some help on that.
Yeah.
Because that's a problem, because they're on the interstate because there's no shuttle from Quantico onto the base. That's one thing. But I also, with the 1.2 to 2.1 million dollars, that's going to be the delta after the 80% from DRPT.
What we were doing there was basically the holistic look for the month of September, what the total, you know, what could be potentially the total fare revenue that would be foregone, that could be backstopped with some recover or rescue money. The piece from DRPT, if you will, for the blue yellow shutdown, a much smaller, potentially smaller population, and of course that extends into October. So there's a slightly different analysis. We're giving you sort of the worst case here.
I gotcha.
And it's gonna, yes, it'll be smaller, and that's why the range is up there too, because we just simply don't know what the
Sure.
ridership would be.
So I just want to say that, you know, I have had some constituents give feedback regarding the fact that our jurisdictional subsidies were still pretty significant last year, and they were not commensurate with the ridership. And so if we make a decision to do this, I want this and the jurisdictional subsidies to be separate conversations. Just because we're doing this, I don't then want people to say, oh, well, we definitely have to give 100% of our jurisdictional subsidy. So I just want to bring that to everybody's attention, and we do have a finance committee meeting later, but these are conversations that I have with Mark offline.
And I think, you know,
But I'm
one-
definitely in favor of this because I think it's a great opportunity.
yeah, really good points. And in terms of the data collection, I mean, one thing that's gonna be important here, you know, we're gonna be spending, if we do this, we'll be spending some money to do it. And we have to look at it as an investment in ridership, but when you make an investment, you need to track that investment to see whether it pays off. So I assume we know the annual value or lifetime value of a new rider or customer, and we need to be in a position after this to analyze whether we're getting a good long-term return on that $1.2 to $2 million investment in it. Supervisor Stork and then Supervisor Lawson.
A lot of yellow line was shut down for a good while. Do we really get it? I know I think it was COVID time, so maybe I can't tell what it was, but do we have any sense of what happened as part of that?
So, there's been a couple shutdowns. I'd have to go back and look at it, but we did see in the range of a couple hundred riders a day. I mean, it peaked during the shutdowns, and then the residual was, we felt that we picked up a couple hundred riders a day from the, long-term perspective. And then, of course, COVID hit, and now we're sort of starting from ground zero. But this has worked well in the past, it's worked well for us. We'd like to think that, being able to attract and retain these riders more long-term, I think this is a good opportunity for us, so.
I totally support it. I think the key is marketing of it. It's been done before. How many times, and have you seen any particular impacts? I think you said that this has been done before.
Not the free fare piece, the metro shutdown piece. I'm sorry. Yeah. No, I've never done a free fare,
I think this is
reduced fare or anything like that.
If we can market, promote it, nothing else, we'll learn a lot from it, and that in of itself will be of value. And I definitely want to go after Metro and get some money out of them as part of the funds that they're putting together money to transport people around those stops. We can see if VRE can get some of those dollars that it's mentioned in here. I think that would be really helps to subsidize our.
Sir. Okay, Supervisor Lawson.
Thank you. Rich, where are we with Wi-Fi in the cars or in the rail cars? We don't have
We do not.
Wi-Fi,
We do not.
but speaking of the experience and the quality of service, I know it's June and we're talking 3 months from now, but is that something that our board has had discussions about that I don't recall, or do you?
We've had over the years, Mr. Chair, over the years, we've had numerous discussions about Wi-Fi.
But is it the money behind it that is why we don't have it yet?
It's a balance between service quality and, yes, there's definitely a cost out there. And I mean, this could be a whole separate topic, and I could bring something back to you, but it's just over time, from a Wi-Fi perspective, technology's changed out there, and frankly, even with our own individual smartphones and stuff, they end up becoming a better hotspot than particularly in our service area, putting Wi-Fi on our trains. And again, we continue to watch that, evolving technology and stuff. One of our issues is we have dead spots in our service area, and we're not going to get around some of those, particularly around Quantico and particularly around the Clifton area. So we've always approached this, like, if we're going to do something like that, we want to make sure that service quality and that service level is up. And we haven't been able to see it from a coverage standpoint. Now, of course, with 5G coming out, I know for me, 5G up and down the Fredericksburg line, I can stay connected and stuff now with my smartphone. And frankly, that's what a lot of folks are doing. So we can bring that discussion back and continue that, but I'm just trying to summarize the whole topic over a long period.
I guess maybe I would suggest that when we're collecting the data, we ask the commuters how important that is to them.
Because it is, if they're using their own cell phone, they're incurring that cost.
Right.
And other systems, maybe they aren't. So you know, it's maybe a decision for Chair Franklin in terms of the timing. I think it's probably good for the date on that thought process, because it is a question that we get, and all of us need to be prepared to answer our constituents when they raise it.
We actually have a consultant actually out there now, essentially updating some white papers that we had done in the past, so we'll have that in the next couple of months.
Okay.
Particularly and because of the wider spread or dispersion of 5G out there, just to see if some things are happening.
Okay, so we'll share
that
that
would
with the board at the
absolutely-
time and have another conversation. I think it's a really good point. Walter.
I was just gonna follow up a little more on the timing. So we have a consultant coming back. How long would it take once the trigger's pulled? If basically the ops board says, let's do Wi-Fi, you know, we talking, 2 months, or is it a year, or do you have any sense of that before it would actually be implemented?
So, Mr. Chair, before I answer that, part of the consultant's coming back with not only reevaluating the coverage issue out there, but also reevaluating the technology piece. In other words, what would we have to do from a technology perspective on board our trains? So I would assume, I do know that the technology is more simplified now than maybe what we were looking at a couple of years ago. Frankly, it'd be hard to guess right now how quick. What we would frankly do or promote is equip a couple of trains and get them out there, and actually see the use. Maybe a couple of cars or something, or cars on each train, not every car, but cars
So a
on
pilot
each train.
program.
And yeah, absolutely, and get people out there using it, and see actually what the usage would be before we invest in the entire fleet. So there's a couple of different options.
Okay, Supervisor Bailey, Humke, Bagley, all the Bs.
So I just wanted to address something that Supervisor Pumpkin had said earlier. I don't want to alarm Rich in terms of ridership from Quantico. We're still good. But I do know that the Marine Corps is different than any other armed services. I'm a Marine Corps wife, and I say that with pride. But there, in terms of the shuttle, it's not shut down at all. It's and it's something that was planned. So I think it's just a matter, again, of what we're talking about, the marketing and communication of that. So I just wanted to just kind of,
So it is running.
well, the Marine Corps, they're replacing some, but they haven't shut it down.
So it's temporarily.
It's temporarily down, so,
Okay.
but a lot of times they don't, Marine Corps doesn't communicate that
Ah,
the way that it should be. So I didn't want to alarm Rich in terms of the ridership. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am. Let me just add on to that a little bit. And actually, Bob and I, and if you recall, Supervisor Bailey, we met with base commander
Yes.
earlier this year. There is cut through the chase, there is a survey going around right now, put out by the base, asking specific questions about, two folks that use Quantico Station. It ties directly to, hey, which VRE trains do you ride, and or which ones would you ride? So there's activity going on this. And our staff has been working with Bob and his staff on just whatever we need to do to complement that effort.
Okay, so we're gonna do Supervisor Bomke and Bailey, and then I'd like to move on because we do have an
yeah.
important closed session.
all right. So, also as it relates to, future investment and, looking at a pilot program for that, for the Wi-Fi and exploring other items, I just want to bring back up my, creating some athletic capabilities on a train. I'm not going to let that issue go. And maybe there's a way where we don't have to build an entire train. We can maybe take some seats off and put some treadmills in there, whatever, what are the other elliptical machines? And maybe that's a question. Was that asked in the survey? Would people be willing to ride if they could, they weren't stationary for an hour and 10 minutes? So anyway, I bring that up again because I really think that's a great idea.
I remember was there somewhere else that you saw that had tried this? Because I remember you mentioned this before,
No.
or was it, okay, so we would be the first, okay. All right.
We did.
I'll take a look at it.
I think board members
That was
were,
a great idea.
Yeah, we talked.
yeah.
Let's look into it.
I will just say, we've done some cursory look at this, and from a Federal Railroad Administration standpoint, there's some safety concerns with this, so I'm gonna continue to, I just,
No, I appreciate
I'm not
that,
saying,
Rich.
we took what you said and we've done some just cursory looks at this. And, so we'll continue to potentially come up with some concepts and stuff, but this is, yeah, anyway.
Okay, Councilwoman Bagley.
Thank you, Chair. So just to kind of come back to the free fare part, what I wanted to just raise and ask a few questions about is, unlike other transit systems that are talking about free fares, we have the benefit of sort of smart benefits. A lot of our riders, get a significant or have the option for. And so I wanted to either encourage, ask, or find out when we do this promotion, can we actively tie in with those 70 agencies or those 40 agencies so that, to the extent we're promoting it, we're making it easy to sign up for the program, sort of as a 1-2 punch. Because I think for people who try it, it's great, free, and it's also a nice service. But unlike other transit systems, like we have free Dash, there's not, if it went back to a fare program, people would have to pay for it. Whereas here, when the fare kicks back in, people can, primarily receive a pretty significant subsidy. And so I think that should be a 1-2 punch of our marketing is this is a fare-free month to experience, but know that you might be likely eligible for a permanent sort of subsidy. And so I don't presume to know what the marketing is, but I think that that's something that separates us and why sort of long-term fare free isn't necessarily the plan, because so many of our riders, don't fully pay full freight out of their own pocket. So just wanted to kind of emphasize, hopefully that's a piece as we market and as we communicate, we use those 70 agencies and we use their HR office, or, we use their enrollment divisions to, reach those people and then hold on to them, from a fare free perspective.
And Mr. Chair, we are directly, we have almost speed dial to some of the benefit, or these benefit coordinators, predominantly in those 70 agencies. Chris Henry has a staff member that is in constant communication with them and riders. He's become the direct link there. So, and I get your point about the marketing and messaging piece as well. So.
I think in the July meeting, we act on this item, it would make sense to, as part of the presentation, to have at least an outline of the marketing plan and what we intend to do, because I know some of that work's already underway. Okay, so I think we have go ahead to continue the work on the free fare proposal, and we'll consider it in July. Final information item is the spending authority report. Anything to share on that, Rich?
Just if anybody has any questions about any item on the spending authority report, you can ask it or contact me or whatever. This is just the standard monthly report. A little bit of activity, but pretty much normal stuff.
Okay, so that'll take us to our closed session, and Secretary Bagley has a motion, I think, for us.
Thank you, Chair. Pursuant to the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, Section 2.2-3711.a, Para 3 of the Code of Virginia, I move that the VRE Operations Board convene a closed meeting for the purpose of discussing one matter involving the acquisition of real property for public purposes, including rail operations, rail equipment storage, and commuter parking, where discussion in public would adversely affect the bargaining position and negotiating strategy of the Commission.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Discussion, clerk call the roll.
Mr. Alcorn.
Aye.
Ms. Bagley.
Aye.
Ms. Bailey.
Aye.
Ms. Bonke.
Aye.
Ms. Garvey. Ms. Gary. Ms. McLaughlin. Ms. Lawson.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Stork.
Aye.
Mr. Walkinshaw.
Aye.
That motion
Okay, we'll just take a few minutes to get set up.
Streaming theirs.
Okay, welcome back, everyone. Secretary Bagley, a motion for us.
Excuse me. The VRE Operations Board certifies that, to the best of each member's knowledge and with no individual member dissenting, at the just concluded closed session, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements under the Freedom of Information Act were discussed, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion by which the closed session was convened were heard, discussed, or considered.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Will the clerk call the roll?
Mr. Alcorn.
Aye.
Ms. Bagley.
Aye.
Ms. Bailey.
Aye.
Ms. Bonke.
Aye.
Ms. Garvey.
Yes.
Ms. Gary.
Aye.
Ms. Lawson.
Aye.
Mr. McLaughlin. Mr. Smith. Mr. Stork.
Aye.
Mr. Walkinshaw. Motion passes.
Okay, final item is operations board members' time, and why don't we start with Mr. McLaughlin? Mr. Smith?
No.
I thought you had something.
I thought I did too. Oh, I do. May I?
Please.
Just to let those that are on the CEO evaluation board, we're gonna meet soon.
Okay. Start with,
I'm good.
I'll just note two small items. I did attend the Meet the Management event at Union Station Tuesday, Thursday,
Wednesday.
It's a rough week. Wednesday, and it was really exciting to be a part of. There was almost 20 VRE staff members there. There was a lot of engagement, and honestly, it was just really nice to see Union Station sort of activated and with a lot of people. And I was just really impressed by the positive sort of engagement by the staff and seeing them interact with riders. The other thing I had a chance to do since our last meeting was to ride the Manassas line post the work that was done, and it was a really lovely, smooth ride. So and to the uneducated, passenger, it was a really nice experience.
Great, thank you. I'll just thank everyone for bearing with us today and thank Mr. Schneider and the PRTC team and whoever's been out there in the heat getting there to get it working. Facilities team, yeah, please thank them on our behalf. Ms. Gary?
I just want everybody to have a great weekend. Happy Father's Day to the dads.
Yeah.
Juneteenth and happy 4th of July. And this cookie looks amazing.
It's amazing.
She sampled it for us.
Okay.
Baby Justin.
Thank you. So it is safe and delicious.
Absolutely.
I've been monitoring her heart. She's good.
Okay, Mr. Stork, anything?
Good.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Just a reminder, our next operations board meeting is July 15th followed by the 30th anniversary celebration, so add some extra time on your calendar. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor? All right, thank you, everyone. Have a great weekend.
Have a finance meeting.
Are you okay staying in here?
Standard.
Yeah.
Start talking, I'll.
Yeah.
Different.
Should be.
Oh, you understand, right? Scratch that. So you got time to spend a lot of-
Got literally that.